What if wisdom wasn't really about having all the answers, but about asking the right questions? Today, we're going to dig into this ancient idea of wisdom, and it's not what you think. It's less about being some sage on a mountaintop and way more about a practical process of seeing the world so clearly that it just fundamentally changes you. So let's get into it. I mean, we all feel this, right? Life is always changing. We get older, we lose people and things we care about, and that feeling of true, lasting peace can feel just out of reach. An ancient text puts it pretty bluntly. Old age is suffering, death is suffering, sorrow are suffering. So the big question is, how do we find any real peace in the middle of all that? That question, right there, is the starting point for this whole journey. All right, so where do we begin? Our guide for this is an ancient prince, and his story shows us that the search for wisdom isn't just some philosophical game. It's usually our response to a deep personal crisis. For him, it all kicked off with a massive shock. So try to picture this. You've got this guy, Prince Vipassi, and he's living in a perfect bubble. His father, the king, has made sure that his entire world is filled with nothing but pleasure. The old accounts say he was given the 5 kinds of sensual stimulation, just to keep him constantly entertained. He literally has no concept of what aging, sickness, or death even are. He's completely walled off from the basic truths of being human. And then, of course, one day, that bubble just bursts. He takes a trip outside the palace, and he sees something he has never, ever seen before, an old man. And it just shatters his whole worldview. For the first time, it clicks, youth doesn't last forever, everyone's body decays. And for him, this isn't just some interesting fact. It's a full-blown crisis. It consumes him. And suddenly the reality of suffering becomes a problem he absolutely has to solve. And you can really feel the raw emotion in his reaction. He doesn't just think about this. He's completely devastated. He actually says, "Curse this thing called rebirth, since old age will come to anyone who's born." This is that moment a universal problem becomes intensely personal, immediate, and totally inescapable. So, faced with this massive problem, the prince, who's now on this quest for an answer, starts exploring 2 paths that might sound kind of familiar. These are the 2 most common ways people try to deal with the harsh realities of life. And according to these texts, they're both dead ends. So on one hand, you have indulgence. This is pretty much the life he already had, trying to drown out reality with constant pleasure and distraction. Think of it as the endless social media scroll, the next online purchase, that constant chase for more. And then on the other extreme, you have mortification. The source material calls it severe and grueling austerities. This is the attempt to beat suffering into submission through extreme self-denial, punishing the body, like taking some wellness fads to a really dangerous level. So, why don't these extremes work? Well, indulgence just fuels more craving. It's like a fire that you can never put out. But the path of extreme hardship, that's also a dead end. The records are surprisingly blunt about this, calling the whole practice a waste of time. So why do you even do it? The story says it's simply because he did not know what he was doing. Bottom line, neither path actually gets to the root cause of the problem. Okay, so after rejecting both of those extremes, he finally stumbles upon a third option, the middle way. And this isn't some weak compromise. It's a really powerful, balanced path of active cultivation. And this is the foundation where wisdom can actually be built. This path really has 3 core parts that build on each other. It all starts with ethical conduct, which is basically just living in a way that doesn't cause harm to yourself or others. Pretty simple, right? But this creates a stable and clear conscience. And that stability is what allows for the next step, mental cultivation, which is all about developing a calm, focused, and really serene mind. And here's the crucial part. It's this clear, cultivated mind that becomes the tool for step 3, wisdom, the ability to finally see reality just as it is. And that brings us to the absolute heart of it all. How does this insight, this wisdom actually happen? What's the mechanism here? This is where we shift from theory to a direct, personal investigation. First off, let's be super clear about what we mean by wisdom, or vipassanā. This is not about memorizing facts or doctrines. It's direct, penetrating insight. It's seeing for yourself that all of our experiences are impermanent, that they all arise from different causes and conditions, and that there's no fixed, unchanging self at the center of the whole thing. So, how do you get there? Well, the journey to this kind of insight doesn't start with just accepting a belief system. Nope. It starts with curiosity. It starts by asking a very specific kind of question about your own direct experience. For Prince Vipassanā, this meant a deep dive into cause and effect. He literally just looked at his own experience and asked, how does this all work? He started with a really basic question. What allows my mental and physical experience, what the texts call name and form, to even exist in the first place? In other words, what are the basic ingredients of my reality right now, in this moment? And here is the absolute key. The text says, through rational application of mind, the posse penetrated with wisdom. That phrase, rational application of mind, that's everything. He used that calm, focused mind he developed not to zone out, but to investigate, to look really closely and logically at how things actually are. For example, he saw that when consciousness exists, there are name and form, which, put simply, means he realized that awareness is the one necessary condition for our physical and mental world to even show up. Now, rational application of mind might sound a little abstract, but there's a very concrete method that goes with it, the 4 foundations of mindfulness. It's basically a systematic training in observation. You start with the body, just noticing physical sensations, like your breath coming in and out, without messing with it. Then you move to feelings, just observing if an experience is pleasant, painful, or neutral, without getting carried away. Next, you observe the mind itself, just being aware of your thoughts and moods as they pop up and fade away. And finally, you observe the underlying principles, the patterns of cause and effect that are happening in your experience. This is the practical toolkit for developing real insight. So what happens when you actually do this? What's the result of seeing things clearly through this process? Well, the text uses this really powerful metaphor to describe the transformation that takes place. This image is just so profound. It's not about adding something new to yourself. It's about shedding what's old and tight and constricting, just like a snake shedding its skin. The near shore and the far shore, they represent all of our attachments, all our clinging to how things are or how we wish they would be. Wisdom allows you to just let it all go. So what exactly gets shed? The records are super clear about this. It's the root causes of our suffering: greed, hatred, and delusion. It's all the mental fetters that keep us tied up. It's the underlying tendencies that just keep getting us into trouble over and over. And when those go, so do fear and dread and sorrow and that endless, exhausting cycle of craving. The state that's left behind isn't some kind of ecstatic high. It's described with these really simple but powerful words. It's being cooled from the fires of greed and hate. It's being quenched like a thirst that has finally truly been satisfied. It's a deep, unshakable inner peace. And look, this isn't just a theory. The source texts are filled with these amazing first-person accounts. Here's a verse from a senior monk. His name was Rakita. He just puts it so plainly. All my lust is given up. All my hate is eradicated. All my delusion is gone. I am cooled, quenched. It makes this ancient goal feel incredibly human, and maybe even attainable. So if there's one key takeaway, it's this. Wisdom isn't a thing you have. It's a thing you do. It is not a belief system you just adopt. It's an active, rational process of looking directly into your own experience. It's a path of discovery that can lead to a complete, liberating shift in how you see yourself and the entire world. And that really brings us to a final thought. This whole process we've been talking about, it isn't about collecting more information or more knowledge. It's about letting go of the distorted views and assumptions that cause all our stress. So the question these ancient texts really leave us with is a personal one. What view, what assumption that you hold about yourself or the world might you be ready to investigate? And maybe, just maybe, see a little differently?